Hi, everyone. Welcome to Understanding Recruitment Apprenticeships. My name is Ruth Harper. I am the Partnerships Development Manager at Workplus, and I'm going to be hosting today's webinar. I'm joined today by Richard Kirk from Workplus, along with our expert panel. No pressure, guys. We have Siobhan Kinsella from the Employment and Recruitment Federation. She's going to be talking about her role as president, but also giving us insight today from an employer's perspective. Speaking from the education side of things, we have Dara Bryan, who is the apprenticeship organiser at the National College of Ireland. We also have Nora Harney from CPL Healthcare, who'll be giving us an insight from an apprentice perspective. So thanks so much, guys, for joining us today. I'm going to ask the panel to give you a bit more of an in-depth introduction in a minute, but a little bit of housekeeping before we start. For better or for worse, sorry, my camera's turned on, as well as our panelists. You, as an audience, can't turn your camera on or your sound on, but you can communicate with us via the chat. And I would just encourage you, as you think of any questions, please put them in the Q&A section. We're grateful to have Anna with us today. You'll see her logo there in the background. And she's going to be monitoring the chat, and she's going to keep an eye on the questions coming through and keep us up to date with any questions that we haven't answered as we go through today's webinar. And we'll cover them at the end. The webinar is being recorded, and a copy will also be shared at the very end of today. As mentioned, Workplus is hosting today's webinar, and we're really delighted to be involved and to be partnering with the Employment and Recruitment Federation to explore this apprenticeship. I'm going to hand over to Richard Kirk now, Workplus CEO, who's going to give you a brief introduction into who Workplus are and what we do. Thanks, Richard.
Ruth, thanks so much for the introduction, and it's great to be part of today's webinar. Workplus started in 2019, really with the outset saying, well, we need to change how our culture views apprenticeships. So we're working with employers across multiple sectors to help them engage well with apprenticeships. The big challenge for employers right across the island, both north and south, is finding good people and retaining them. And the recruitment profession knows that as well as any other. But the big challenge around that is how do you engage in something like apprenticeship with less than 10% of employers bringing apprentices into their organization? It's often something which is just another thing on an employer's to-do list, just so hard to navigate. And then that's why we created Workplus. We primarily worked in the north, but a lot of our clients are working both north and south. We're keen to support employers to understand better what apprenticeships can do for their organization, and then also to run recruitment campaigns on behalf of those employers to make it much easier for people to apply for those apprenticeships. So quite a lot of apprentices are new to organizations, but we'll hear today about how you can also use apprenticeship to upskill your existing employees as well. And a lot of our work is around that community base as well. We work with employers, but also then working with apprentices, and we've started an apprenticeship cluster. So apprentices from multiple sectors, organizations getting together for social events to really build their capacity together to learn from each other and to start to build an identity, which can then help to promote to the next generation of apprentices coming through, to show that this isn't maybe what you think it is. It's not just for hair and beauty, motor vehicle, carpentry, plumbing. It's actually a wider range of apprenticeship opportunity. But in order to have apprenticeship, we need to have employers at the table. So that's why we're keen to have today's webinar and be involved in it, to encourage more employers to embrace apprenticeship as a way of upskilling existing staff or bringing in new staff to their organisation.
Great, thanks, Richard. Okay, we're going to hand over to our panel now. So as Richard mentioned, at Workplus, we do a lot of supporting employers who maybe are starting out on that apprenticeship journey or trying to recruit apprentices. So we're going to start off with just some very basic questions about the recruitment apprenticeship. Siobhan, you're here today with a couple of hats. You're the Employment and Recruitment Federation President. So we're going to start off maybe chatting to you first of all, about the recruitment apprenticeship and some basic information. But do you maybe want to talk, first of all, about your role and do a brief introduction to yourself?
My name is Siobhan Kinsella. I'm the current president of the Employment and Recruitment Federation, serving all of our members. which is a voluntary role. And I was previously managing director of the Knoll Group and currently managing director of strategic placements. And I'm a proud apprenticeship host. I have 5 apprentices. And for our part, I'm also on the consortium steering group with the Employment and Recruitment Federation. So just to explain a little bit about this recruitment apprenticeship, in 2016, the National Apprenticeship Office was opened to industry. So previously apprenticeships were like craft apprenticeships, as Richard suggested. You know, you've motor, you've electrician, you've, plumbing, all of those kind of things. But what the government wanted to do was bring an apprenticeship into industry to upskill our national workforce. So any industry body had to be a representation of the entire industry if you wanted to go for apprenticeship, and then you partnered with an education institution. So the Employment and Recruitment Federation were absolutely passionate about it. What we wanted to do was credentialise our profession, professionalise our profession, and most importantly, make it a profession of choice. And the war for talent is real in our own industry, not mind the industries we supply into. So for us, it was hugely important. So across Employment and Recruitment Federation, all pretty much of the major agencies came together as the consortium steering group, and together we collaborated with the National College of Ireland to develop this curriculum, not just specifically for the recruitment industry, but also for anybody who's involved in talent acquisition in-house. So this recruitment apprenticeship is at level 8, which means it is the world's first degree in recruitment. And it's something that we're inordinately proud of. And we actually currently have, for progression reasons for our apprentices, an application in with the National Apprenticeship Office for the world's first masters in recruitment. But what we have found through participation in the programme is that not only are our learners getting a fantastic education that we heavily inputted into, but we find that they're the leaders in our profession. They're being promoted in our profession, and they're also transferring their learning to other people in our companies that are not apprentices. One of the things I will say is a feature of the old apprenticeship system was that you went on block release to go to college. What's really important in this apprenticeship system, and that employers understand what's involved, is it's 10 Thursdays before Christmas, 10 Thursdays after Christmas for a period of 3 years. And what you do is you focus your learners' work around what they're learning in their apprenticeship, but they tend to tell you what they're working on, and their progression kind of follows the curriculum anyway, because that's how we designed it. You have a workplace mentor to help your apprentice while they're working in company, and you also have an academic supervisor in college to help them as well. So any of the things that most people are worried about, academic writing or those kind of things, all of that guidance is given by the college. Pastoral care is really, really important in the college. And then we have industry speakers. We've Dara will give us a bit more information on it. We've the likes of LinkedIn coming in. We've James Osborne coming in, which is an industry heavyweight. We have all of the social talent content made available to our apprentices, and all of our apprentices, as part of the programme, are entitled to and must attend the Employment and Recruitment Federation conference to further invest in their learning. So that's my whistle-stop tour.
That was very comprehensive. Thank you. Amazing course, and amazing what's happened in the last couple of years with it. So just very basic, Siobhan, there might be employers here who are maybe thinking about hiring an apprentice, or maybe potentially upskilling someone in their organisation. Do apprentices have the same rights as other full-time employees, or is there anything changes in terms of that employment contract?
No, you can use a specific apprenticeship contract. Most of us just tend to use our normal contract of employment because the rights are exactly the same. And in terms of, if you use an apprenticeship contract, in the event that somebody failed the course, you'd have a right to terminate employment, but that doesn't happen. And for our part, we're using it in 2 ways. One, to hire new entrants who choose the profession, which was one of the singular aims of this apprenticeship. And candidates can apply directly to, if they apply directly to the college or directly to the Employment and Recruitment Federation or via the National Apprenticeship Office, all of those applications go to Janice O'Rourke in the Employment and Recruitment Federation. So anybody who's looking at hiring specifically for an apprenticeship role, they can contact Janice at any stage and she'll provide suitable CVs based on what they're looking for. But in addition to that, you can enroll anybody in your organisation in this course. So what we tended to do was we would make a point of interview. We would talk to our potential employees about what their learning and development journey was going to look like and what they wanted to do. So for within our organisation, it was existing employees who were choosing and asking, could they be supported on the apprenticeship, because we were obviously making it available and advertising it internally that this is something really, really good. And from an employer's perspective, it also means somebody's going to stay with you for at least 3 years. It also means that they're going to choose your organisation over another organisation who doesn't upskill them, who doesn't invest in them, and who doesn't prioritise their learning and development and growth. So we found it a really, really big differentiator. I suppose the biggest users of the apprenticeship system and the biggest supporters to date, and I'm only going to go the top three, would be, and this is a shout out to other organisations, which is remarkable in our industry, but the CPL Group, Sigmar, and the Knoll Group would have been the biggest supporters. But again, that differentiates you in a very crowded and competitive market, that you're prepared to invest in your people and invest in their success.
Yeah, lots of incentives and good reasons to bring on an apprentice and think about investing in that for your organisation. And last question, Siobhan, who pays what in terms of salary? Is there any incentives to take on apprentices? Maybe you could just briefly discuss that, please.
Yeah, there is a minimum salary for taking on an apprentice that we've agreed, but nobody pays it. Everybody pays over that. So essentially, you pay what you'd pay for a normal hire in terms of salary. But the fees for the National College of Ireland are only €1,000 a year. So it's a total cost of €3,000 for 3 years. But even separate to that, the government gives you an incentive of €2,000 a year as a grant. So once your data is up to date, that your learner is still enrolled, you get €2,000 a year. So you're making a net gain of €3,000, and somebody's getting a level 8 honours degree, which is going to add massively to your organisation.
Absolutely. Brilliant. Thank you so much, Siobhan, for giving us insight into the basic information there. And just a reminder, any questions that you would like covered, please pop them into the Q&A section. Dara, I'm going to move to you now. You organise apprenticeships at National College of Ireland. Can you tell us just a little bit of an introduction to yourself and to your role, please?
Of course. Good morning. My name is Dara. I'm the National College of Ireland Apprenticeship Coordinator. I've been in my role since last August, so I'm kind of unique in this position, as I was a graduate of the Recruitment Apprenticeship in National College of Ireland with the Employment Recruitment Federation. So I was one of the first cohort to graduate last year. So I've been able to go through the whole course. I've been through first to third year. I've had my workplace mentor. I've had my academic supervisor. So I'm in a unique position to see what it's like on the ground as the apprentice. I'm in a unique position to see how the employer dealt with myself and how they got on in the relationship there. And I'm also in a unique position now to see the background work and what the hard work that goes into running this apprenticeship program. So myself and Janice O'Rourke, we would work very closely together. So as Siobhan mentioned previously, the post-2016 apprenticeship programs are industry led. So that means that we have a consortium steering group. And these are industry leaders within the industry that come together maybe 3 or 4 times a year. We sit down together at a table for a couple of hours and we talk about the curriculum, we talk about the success stories, we talk about the results that have been achieved, and then the evolution of the program. So we ensure that the education that we give to the apprentices are emerging trends like, AI at the moment, cybersecurity, anything to do with employment law or finance that might change. And then again, with learning going online with e-platforms, we make sure that we're up to date with all of the software that we have. So we're ensuring that our apprentices are at the very forefront of the industry knowledge and education coming through. So my role being that person would be just to be that the kind of pastoral care, as Siobhan said previously, to ensure that the employers are being looked after. If there's any questions for them, and we ensure that the whole program runs smoothly. So as Siobhan said, 10 Thursdays pre-Christmas, 10 Thursdays after Christmas. So our semester would run from September to December, and then there's a break, and then we'll come back in February, and that'll be February to May. So the role that I have would be to just be that support system there for the apprentices themselves if they have any queries. Last year I went into Nora's going to speak shortly, but I went into Nora's class in third year and just gave a bit of a breakdown class of what was ahead in third year. I brought some of my past alumni in with me, and we kind of just went through a couple of tips and tricks that we found worked for us, because what we seem to forget is these apprentices are doing something amazing that hasn't been seen before. Really, they're working a full-time job, like Monday to Friday. I know, understanding that they're in college on a Thursday, but they're in college on a Thursday, but work does not stop for them. So when they go back to work on a Friday, they are then like they're catching up on the work that missed the day before. So they're juggling two jobs at once. They're doing a level 8 degree, and they're obviously missing out on some social events, or they're missing out on their weekends, especially when it gets into the later stages and award stage. So they're doing something pretty amazing. So the support services there, we ensure that they're there for them, be it anything to us going into class, if you have any queries. We have student support in the college as well for the apprentices, be it library or counselling if needed. As we said, we have an academic supervisor, so that would be hired by NCI, and the academic supervisor would be going through their work-based learning projects with them, to give them any extra information or help on, as Siobhan said, academic writing, or how to phrase this, or just to guide them along and trying to expand their knowledge. And then we have a workplace mentor, and that workplace mentor is somebody that has been nominated within the company, and we'd ask them to be in the industry itself between 3 to 5 years, so they have that knowledge. And then we'd ask the workplace mentor to be maybe in a supervisory team in, or a managerial role, and that workplace mentor would be that kind of buddy system for the apprentice in their company. And we'd ask them to meet maybe once a week just to check in, see how they're getting on assignments, and kind of help them. The good thing about the apprenticeship route is that it's heavily based on work-based learning, so there's 50% weighting on work-based learning. And what that means is we're bringing the apprentices into college, we're feeding them all this information, be it HR, ICT skills, employment law, talent acquisition, candidate management, client management. But at the end of the day, we do need that kind of anchor in the company, because we have so many different companies. We've got in-house, we've got public, we have talent acquisition, we have agency, we've contractors, people that are on temporary, people are on permanent, people in totally different industries. So even though the education does anchor to the recruitment industry, we also need to specialize workplace mentors to steer them along with their assignments in their own company. So to say that the apprentices are probably the most supported recruiters in South of Ireland, that's an understatement. But back to me, just as my role, it's pastoral care, just to ensure that the apprentices are getting on well. Our industry leaders are being checked in, and we're making sure that we're forefront of the knowledge that we have, and that everything runs smoothly over the course of the year.
Brilliant. That's great to hear about that wraparound support. And it's also, I'm sure, encouraging for employers to hear that it's not all on them as well, that NCI do a lot to support them throughout their journey, and also work together, because there's that lovely synergy of that work-based learning, but also bringing what they've learned from work back into the classroom as well.
And even in my own previous experience, the knowledge that I brought into my company, as Siobhan alluded to earlier on, was like little AI trends before they came out into the public knowledge that actually increased our productivity in my company, my recruitment company. And I was bringing in information that probably other agencies or companies didn't know, but having me on the program definitely added to the productivity of my company.
Brilliant. And Siobhan mentioned employers earlier, and a few employers that are engaging. You obviously, Dara, would work with employers and support them. What kind of feedback are you getting from them?
Really, really good feedback. So especially in regards to, let's say, retention rates, I went and did a little bit of statistics there. And in the last 2 graduate cohorts, we've had 98% of the graduates stay in industry. The one person that hasn't stayed in industry but still using the skills of recruitment is actually myself. I obviously fell in love with the apprenticeship model, and decided to join the team. So I'm the black sheep here, that I've left the industry, but in a sense, I haven't. I'm still using my recruitment skills. And we've had fabulous feedback from the employers. We actually went for revalidation. So as it is a level 8 degree, every 5 years you have to go to QQI to just present again the standings of your program, and any changes and how you are changing with the times. And the feedback that we got from the consortium, or from the QQI panel, was fantastic. They have revalidated us for 5 more years, and they actually said as the way that the industry, the consortium steering group works with us with NCI, it's probably one of the best run programs with industry led that they've seen since 2016, since it started. So they said that they're going to share how we ourselves, NCI and the Employment Recruitment Federation and the consortium steering group work together. It's actually been something that's not seen before. So we're working very well with each other.
Fantastic. Well, congratulations on all the success. And you're the one that got away but didn't go too far. Yeah. So I'm right in saying you have two groups of graduation cohorts through the program. So is there any success or feedback stories you have from them?
Yeah, and well, again, so we've had Nora, and congratulations to Nora. She will be graduating in November, and she completed her and got her degree in July. And then myself and my cohort was last year. Just to give a shout out, we had a lady called Kerry Lynn Stein, and in third year you do like a research dissertation project. And Kerry Lynn actually was she was the 2023 regional winner of Ireland in the business category at the Global Undergraduate Awards. They kind of call it like it's a huge accolade globally. So she was recognized globally, and for NCI since its conception in the 70s, Kerry Lynn is the first student from NCI to be recognized globally and win regionally, and she as an apprentice is just a fantastic achievement. So if that's anything to say about how the standard of the education and learning that we provide, and is the standard of support that she received throughout with our academic supervisor, her workplace mentor, and ourselves, the team here, it was just a fantastic achievement all around.
Brilliant. Thanks for that, Dara. That's great. We might come back to you later on with some of the questions coming in. So thank you for sharing that. Nora, we're going to turn to you. You've had a little bit of an introduction already, but it's great to have you with us today and for you to be able to share from an apprentice side of things. So can you tell us, first of all, just maybe a brief introduction to yourself, where you're from, and a little bit about your apprenticeship experience?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Ruth, and thanks for having me here today. I'm delighted to be invited and I suppose represent the apprentices. So my name is Nora Harney and I am currently a senior consultant with CPL Healthcare, who is a healthcare agency. I have been working here now for over 3 years, and I started the apprenticeship. I suppose I enrolled when I was about 4 or 5 months with the company, which was an amazing opportunity. I won't lie and say when it first came up, it's a bit daunting. It had been a while since I'd been in further education, and to be honest, it wasn't something that I thought that I was going to return to. I suppose with different personal situations, and when you're working full time, it's hard to take that step back and go into full time education. So I wasn't sure if that was going to be an option for me. But when the apprenticeship came about, and I suppose Angela, who would have been my mentor throughout the 3 years, she came to me and sent me an invite and asked if I would like to apply. I suppose I went home, I spoke to my family about it, and I was thinking, 3 years is a massive commitment, and taking on a bachelor's and honours degree, it was going to be a massive task, and it was something that I had to think about. But then coming down to it, it was kind of a no-brainer. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity to be able to. I was in a job that I knew that I was going to build a career with, a company I was going to build a career with, and at the same time of doing my job, I was going to be enhancing my skills. And I suppose being sent to college without those fees is a massive thing for somebody as well. You don't have to worry about having to pay your fees each year, and you're still getting to upskill in the job. So it was a massive no-brainer in the end. I'm absolutely delighted now to say that I completed the course in May of this year, received my results. So I finished with a 2-1, and I'll be graduating in November. So a massive achievement, and definitely something I would advise to anybody who is thinking about doing the apprenticeship.
Brilliant. Thank you. And congratulations on
Thanks,
completing that.
And
can you tell us, Nora, we've heard the breakdown of on the job, off the job. How was that easy enough for you to manage it? How did you find that?
No, I'd be lying if I said it was easy. I feel like there's definitely that transition of finding what works for you. Throughout my 3 years, I would have been on different campaigns. So I now work in the Allied Health Department within CPL Healthcare, recruiting for, I suppose, all thing healthcare. However, I would have been on different campaigns. So my roles would have varied throughout the 3 years, and my teams would have changed. So there was those transition periods that were a little bit difficult, and I suppose your work remains the same. My work was my work. So when I finished on a Thursday, I came back in on a Friday and I was catching up. But it was just something that I had to get used to doing. As Siobhan mentioned earlier, it's 10 Thursdays prior to Christmas and then 10 Thursdays after. You look at it as if it's a whole year, and you do feel scared thinking, oh my God, it's September to May, but you have your Christmas off, you have your midterm breaks. And I was very, very lucky with the company that I'm in and my team around me. Like, my team were so good to me and helping with anything. I suppose if there was anything that needed to be prioritized, that they were there to help me, I suppose, catch up if ever needed. But it is a difficult one, and I suppose you do need the support of your management to be able to um prioritize your work and make sure that, I suppose, nothing falls behind. But I suppose you have to be aware of that commitment when you're taking it on. I was aware that it was going to be a heavy load and it was going to take up weekends and evenings, and I wasn't going to have the exact same life. But at the same time, it's now August of 2024. My 3 years are done, and it honestly feels like it went in the click of a finger. And although there were hard days, and so year one, it was continuous assessment. So every topic and every subject had a continuous assessment. Year two, there was continuous assessment and also some exams. And then year three was continuous assessment and dissertation. So the years varied. Looking back now, I would say year one and year two weren't as, I suppose, a heavy load. Look at when you get to year three, it's definitely more pressure. The pressure's on from both NCI and yourself, because at the end of the day, it's year three where the results come in, and that's where it needs to count. But I think that when you go into it with the right head and you're committed, you know that the workload that it's going to take. And like I said, it goes by so fast that I suppose we're all adults here, and we're all working in a fast-paced environment all the time. So you do just adapt to your new working week and working day. And any employer that's listening here today, you have to be prepared to support that employee. And I know the guys previous to me were speaking about the academic supervisors and also the mentor and the buddy system that you have within your company. I was very, very fortunate that my mentor within my company was Angela Redmond, and shout out to Angela, because I absolutely would not have got through my 3 years without Angela. She was amazing, whether it was a shoulder to cry on or to help me with something academically. She was absolutely brilliant, and she was always there for helping hand. So I would emphasize that to all employers, that you really want to look at who wants to commit to be in that buddy program, because it is, for me, it was a massive support. And you need that in order for the employee to do their working week and not constantly be, I suppose, stressed or under pressure. I had an hour a week where I had with Angela, and we had our meetings. I got to go through any difficulties that I had. I suppose if I had a CA or an exam coming up, I could go through things with Angela, and she had just such a huge range of knowledge of all. I was lucky that she had such a big range of knowledge on all different subjects that she could help me. So it's definitely something that, if you are considering doing the course and becoming on as an employer, to keep that in the back of your mind as who's going to be that mentoring system. And that transition period for the employer to now go a 4-day week with your employee and that person be gone, it might sound a little bit scary, because will the work get done? But with the right management and the right, I suppose, logistics and stuff, it will get done. And the person who's going to commit themselves to the 3 years is the person who is a hard worker and is motivated and will get the job done.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point, because my next question was, employers might feel a little bit apprehensive of saying, oh, if you have an apprentice, they're away 1 day a week. And, I guess around that, do you feel apprentices, you've maybe answered this already, but do you feel as an apprentice, you're more likely to be loyal with your company and stay with your company? I know Dara touched on this as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose I can only speak from myself, but also all the guys that would have been in my class throughout the 3 years. When I embarked on the apprenticeship, I knew that I was committing to 3 years of not only the apprenticeship, but also a minimum of 3 years with my company. I knew that the type of person that I was, that I would want to give back to my company for what they gave to me. It's a massive opportunity that they gave me. And I knew that I was embarking on 3 years of commitment to them, huge loyalty. It's amazing for retention. Also, you have to remember that throughout those 3 years, nobody wants to go and try and find a new job or have that added stress, that it's for me, the only option was to stay with my company, have that support system, have the support system of my team around me, work in a job that I knew I was good at, and enhance my skills within that role as well, because I was learning things in college that sometimes when you're working day to day, you don't have time to maybe sit and learn new things, or the team might not be able to collaborate on different ideas. However, sometimes I felt like I was able to come back and give some advice on something that I might have learned in college, which was then benefiting the team members around me. So yeah, to answer your question, I definitely feel like any apprentice that is committing to the 3 years does have the loyalty to their company as well. And you would hope to God that anybody that you do put through for the apprenticeship, that they would be able to give you that loyalty and that retention for the couple of years that they're with you.
Great, thank you. And Richard and Siobhan both touched on this. Maybe people joining this webinar didn't know that this apprenticeship existed. Maybe when they heard the word apprenticeship, they think of those very traditional career routes. From your perspective, do you think the culture around apprenticeship is changing?
Yeah, absolutely, Ruth. I would have been one of those people who would have believed that apprenticeships was the more traditional. So you would think of apprenticeships being around trades or crafts. I was actually speaking to Dara earlier, and he explained that prior to 2016, there was 24 apprenticeships in Ireland, and they were all solely based around craft. And then post 2016, I think there's about 76. So the culture has massively changed. And for me, as a mature student, although I don't like to say that, as a mature student, it meant that there was a wide range of apprenticeships out there, and it's really going to incorporate a lot of different jobs, positions, topics for people to be able to be included. Before I was in CPL, I never knew anything about the apprenticeship. Now it had only been created the previous year, so I know that there wouldn't have been a lot of talk about it. It's also the first recruitment degree in the world, which is an amazing thing to have and an amazing thing to be able to say. But yes, to answer your question, the culture is definitely changing around apprenticeships, and it's not the old, I suppose, stigma of tradies, electricians, plumbers, that sort of thing. It's definitely bringing in a whole wide range of departments and sectors all around Ireland, which is amazing because it gives a lot more opportunities.
Yeah, you're a great advocate for it, Nora. Thank you so much. Last question. You touched on this already about the importance of, workplace mentor and really the great support that you had from your employers. If there's employers here listening and they're thinking about taking on an apprentice or upskilling members of staff that they have, what would you say to them? Any advice?
Yeah, to be honest, I think it is a no-brainer. So for CPL Healthcare, I am CPL itself. I am the seventh. I'll be the seventh graduate in November. So 4 graduated in year 1, and now 3 of us are going to be graduating in year 2. So if you think of that, the course is set out to, I suppose, develop people that are already working there and to become leaders. I was a recruitment consultant when I started out on the course, and I got promoted throughout my 3 years to senior consultant. So I'm obviously hoping then that I'm going to be promoted again. I'm hopefully going for a team lead promotion at the end of the year. And it really does upskill the employees that you have. So whether it's you're bringing somebody in or you want to upskill somebody that you already have, it's amazing for continuous development. I think that for retention as well, to have somebody who's going to commit to you for the 3-year program means that you have that commitment and that retention from not only that person, but say you have 2 to 3. So I know we had the largest number in my class, we had the largest number from our company, and it's amazing to have somebody beside you. I have great friends now that were in my class, and I had them to lean on. They had me. So I was able to collaborate with not only people in my department, but outside my department. And I think for an employer, it can be a scary time because you're wondering, will the work get done? I know I touched on this already, and you're thinking, how do I transition into a 4-day week? You might look at it as a 4-day week, but I suppose with your support and with good managerial skills, you will be able to come together and make sure that throughout those 4 days, the tasks that need to be done are completed. And as long as you're willing to give that support to that person and they have that academic supervisor and the mentor within the company, I genuinely think it's a no-brainer. And any employer would be mad not to go for it. I think it's a great opportunity for all employees.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there with the willing to support. It's
Yeah.
that going into that with an attitude of being willing to support the apprentice. Sorry, Nora,
Yeah.
I know I said we were going to give you a break, but actually I have a question for you in the chat. So I'm
Oh,
just
yeah,
gonna
perfect.
while I have you.
Yeah.
So there's a question that's come through. Do you think it is necessary to be in a specific role in order to apply for the apprenticeship?
Okay, so maybe what the person means is, do you have to be on a specific team or doing specific tasks? I know that the apprenticeship is mainly for recruiters, talent acquisition. There definitely was other people that started out in my class who would have been in maybe a more admin role and we're hoping to transition into the recruiter style role. For me, a massive worry was, so I work on an agency based role, so I would work with temp roles. So business development was not part of my day-to-day task. This was a massive worry as I went into my class in year one, and I noticed that the majority of people around me, say for example, 18 out of 21 people, were all working contract roles, permanent roles. They were all doing business development every day. And as business development was one of my subjects, I thought that I was going to fall behind, and it was something that I was going to find difficult to be able to keep up with and to be able to bring back on the job. With talking to my mentor and my manager, it was something that we were able to look at. And when you think of business development, I suppose you think of cold calling and you think, okay, I need to get business on. But thankfully, I work with TUSLA and the HSE. And I suppose there's other ways of business development, and I was able to incorporate it into my role, and I was able to speak to hospitals who wouldn't take on agency staff. So this is just an example of my role. They wouldn't take on agency staff, and after speaking to them, they decided that maybe they would go down the temp role. And it was slightly a bit of business development that I was able to use the skills that I was learning and bring it into my role, even though it wasn't something that I would have ever done day to day. So those fears that I had, I was able to, I suppose, work around them and speak to my mentor, speak to my manager, see what we could do so that I could continue to develop. Now, there are skills that I definitely developed in college and I was able to learn that I wouldn't do day to day, but it's not to say that I won't do them in the future, and the next role that I go into, I won't take them with me. So I definitely think that it's open to everybody. And if you are thinking of applying, and maybe you go in and you're like me and you're saying, oh my God, I've never done anything like this before, this doesn't really relate to me, there's always loopholes and always ways around it, and you're always learning. So be of the mindset that whatever you learn, you're able to take with you in the future. It might not be today, but it's something that I know that I can take with me when I go into a future role, or if I move within my own business, that I know that I have that, I suppose, knowledge and skills behind me now. So allow it to give you that little bit of confidence rather than the fear that I had. Hopefully that answers the question.
So it actually enhanced your experience rather than being
absolutely.
a barrier.
Brilliant. Yeah, it started off as a barrier and thankfully turned into enhancing. Yeah.
Fantastic. Dara, do you have anything to add to that? I think Nora answered that really well, but
fantastic answer, Nora. But again, as Nora said, like it's the way that the education is set up. It's set up to it's flexible and varies, you know. So whatever you might learn one thing, and I could take the learning that I took in that class back into my organization and apply it to one task, whereas somebody else in a different organization, in a different role, in a different sort of permanent contract or public or in-house, or could use the same skill set, we'll just apply it differently. So just to give it a bit of an overview of kind of how the years are looking, in first year, it is kind of aimed at, you know, entry into recruitment, so more level 6. So you've got introduction to recruitment practice. So you do get a full sort of overview of, you know, job interviews, job posting, you know, the legalities around what you put up on an ad and what you can't put up on an ad, career guidance, so how you can kind of manage your candidates through their career when you come to you with a CV. You've got ICT skills, so how to use Microsoft Word, Excel, presentations, etc. Then you go into second year, gets a little bit more tougher because you're then kind of solely based on employment law, which is huge as well, because you need to know your employment law because you're managing these candidates and your clients. Then you have finance for recruitment, so understanding your margins, your temps, so contract building, and then candidate management, talent strategy in year 2. And then, as Nora alluded to, in year 3, it is then your level 8. So you're looking at your dissertation project. I done mine on the future of the workforce and Gen Z, and our organization's ready for the new workforce by 2027. 75% of our workforce will be millennials and Gen Z. So that's what I kind of focused in on. And then you've got candidate strategy, and it gets a little bit more kind of technical in year 3 with ethics and equality. But as I said, that the whole journey on this apprenticeship isn't just based for John and Mary. This whole journey on the apprenticeship is to make sure that this learning and this knowledge can seep into any organization within the industry, that anybody from any background, be it temp, perm, contract, public, in-house, talent acquisition, they're all the same spine of recruitment, but how you then actually apply it into your own role, you can just take those skill sets that you have, bring it in. And as Nora said, if you don't use that skill set, then you're going to use it in future. So like now I never used to present when I was working in a temp agency role, and now I haven't stopped doing presentations, but I done that in first year, and that's where my confidence grew. So whatever you learn or whatever you take from the 3 years, you'll always use in the future.
Great, thanks, Sarah. That's great. Just a reminder, any other questions, keep them coming. Thank you so much, Nora. I promise that is me finished for now anyway. Siobhan, I'm gonna go back to you. So you spoke earlier with your hat of the Employment and Recruitment Federation, but you also mentioned that you were an employer. You have 5 apprentices with you at the minute. I've been through the program. So can you tell us a little bit more about your experience with apprenticeships and how did you start with them?
I was on the consortium steering group. So, and if you look at what we were able to do as industry leaders, and it was across the whole recruitment industry in Ireland, we determined exactly what was going to be in that program. We determined what success would look like and what we wanted the leaders of the future to learn, and NCI delivered for us on what we asked. So it's kind of a perfect scenario as an employer that somebody's going to do that for you. So we knew we wanted to create the leaders of the future. And one thing I thought was really interesting that Nora said was she's now, through the apprenticeship program, built her network for the future. Okay, so if you look at what this has done for us in the employment and recruitment industries, we all have colleagues to bounce off of. The consortium steering group and the arduous task of getting a program on the national framework at level 8, we all put so much effort into it, but we became colleagues and friends as a result, and as the leadership in the industry. And when I look at Dara and I look at Nora and I look at Kerry Lynn last year, they are the leadership of the future. So for us, that's fantastic. But it adds to productivity, as Dara said, it adds to profitability, and you get the peer learning that is brought back into the company. So even people who aren't prepared to make the commitment are still learning from the apprentices. But one thing I would like to say is, how do you do it? How do you get involved as an agency, and how big do you have to be? It's really, really easy to get involved. Janice O'Rourke, who's the apprenticeship the education manager, head of education in the Employment and Recruitment Federation, will literally handhold you. All you have to do is send her an email, make a phone call, and she will show you exactly how to get involved. It is not difficult to register as an apprenticeship host. If I look at Denise Brady, who runs the Recruitment Owners Network within the Employment and Recruitment Federation, it's not a massive agency, it's a very successful agency, but in Teamworks, she's had an apprentice as well. So don't think that you're too small to have an apprentice, is the point that I'd make. Because I did say that the larger agencies are great users of the apprenticeship program. It doesn't mean if you're a small agency of 5, 10, 15, 20 people, that you can't have an apprentice. You can. And I would say contact Janice. And I would say, as an employer who is absolutely focused on profitability, having apprentices has definitely added to our profitability as a company. And I would say, as Nora said, it's a no-brainer. Get involved. Just make contact with Janice O'Rourke in the Employment and Recruitment Federation, or me or Dara or anybody else, and we will literally help you on the road to do it.
Great. That answers my next question of what do you need to do? And is there anything we've talked about finding a great mentor? Nora mentioned about the effect that a good mentor has had from an employer. Is there anything else other than get in touch with the Employment and Recruitment Federation? Is there anything else you need to do to prepare to hire an apprentice or to upskill an existing member of staff?
I have to say it's exciting talking to the apprentices, learning what they're learning what they're going through, seeing their enthusiasm for it is hugely important. And it's something I used to have occasional meetings with our apprentices, even though I wasn't the supervisor or mentor, because I was genuinely interested and I wanted them to succeed, and it was in our interest for them to succeed. I would say no, like there's a huge movement at the moment for a 4-day working week. So if you're losing somebody from the desk for one day, we do protect that. And as an employer, you do protect that day. You do not contact your apprentices when they're in college. And in the event that they're doing college online, their cameras are on because they are employees. No more than I wouldn't have my camera off for a webinar. Our people are all actively engaged in the work that they're doing, in the learning that's being undertaken. And I would say, no, if you've got a good team and a good culture, they're going to pick up the slack because everybody wants to succeed and to see our people succeed.
Great, thank you so much. So it's about supporting and respecting the process as well of those days where they're in college and the learning they have to do as well. So that's great. Thank you so much.
Ruth,
And just
could I just say, and just
yes,
just on the apprentice side in regards to requirements, which I forgot to mention for the apprenticeship. So there is minimum requirements to get onto the course. Now it's a minimum of grade H5 in 2 higher level subjects in the Leaving Cert, with a minimum of a grade 06 or H7 in 4 other subjects. So it's having 2 higher level subjects and a pass and everything else. You must have an 06 or a H7 minimum grade in English and in maths. But if you don't have that, let's just say you had somebody internally that has done the Leaving Cert, like, and I have to say it's a fantastic thing when you look at the age range that we have on the course. We've got someone that has literally just left school, that has come straight in from CAO or has just literally come straight in from school. And then we have people in, like myself, in their mid-30s, early 40s, that have been in the industry for a while. Or I've done hospitality for 12 years and then was a hospitality recruiter. So if they've done their Leaving Cert a while ago, there is a thing called ORPEL, which is a recognition of prior learning, and that's an assessment of the knowledge, skills, and competencies that have been previously acquired in the industry that will get you on this apprenticeship without having that Leaving Cert requirements. Just wanted to make that clear.
great, thanks, Darren. And I'm sure all that information is up on the National Apprenticeship or Generation Apprenticeship website, and you can also get in touch with the Employment and Recruitment Federation to find out more too. So thank you for that. Siobhan, yeah, you have 5 apprentices. How have they enriched your business from an employer perspective?
Not very good at giving feedback, I'll tell you that. Well, no, I have to say, just the knowledge, skills, experience, culture, support. I'm not the only nerd in the room now because they're interested in some of the same things that I'd be interested in terms of, how the economy works or what cycle is coming, or, I do toolbox. I would have always done toolbox talks on kind of what's coming next in the economy or what's coming with employment law or those kind of things. So it's great that it's coming from so many different directions. Do you know what I mean? That they're bringing the knowledge from the college back in. So now when you ask for feedback, you do get it. Whereas, previously you might not have gotten as much feedback, but it really adds to the confidence, as Nora said, and as Dara said, everything from, doing a presentation or sharing their project work. If you look at some of the assignments, they're things that are going to enhance business. Ask to see them. You know what I mean? Whereas our people were volunteering them. So, I mean, there's change in direction, whether it's, a marketing strategy or whether it's a business development strategy, all of those things. And then that's shared out and it's filtered across the teams, So, and it's also, I suppose, very much, it's very important to reiterate what Nora said. You're making a commitment to these people. You're investing in these people. And they feel that loyalty to you. They feel that gratitude that you're supporting them and developing them. So it is really, really good for company culture. So I would say that my big call to action is, if you think you're too small, if you think you're only medium sized, if you think you're not sure that how much is involved, reach out to Janice in the ERF. She'd be happy to take your call, and we're happy to show you how easy it is to get involved and how much benefit it'll bring to your business. So the website for more information is apprenticeship.ie. But I would say make the call or send an email to Janice at the ERF HQ.
Great. And that maybe answers my last question I was going to ask you, Siobhan. But just before I ask it, just a reminder, we're going to be finishing up shortly. So if there is a question that you haven't put in the chat yet, you've only got a few minutes to do that. So please, we would encourage any of you listening that have any questions, please just pop them in the chat. So lastly, Siobhan, what advice would you give to employers who have never engaged in the apprenticeship system?
It's free money from government. It's increased productivity for your business. It's increased profitability for your business. It increases the attractiveness of your business. It increases the likelihood that your people will engage in further education to enhance your business. There is literally no downside.
Thank you so much. That's great. Thank you to everyone. Our panel today. That's been really insightful and really helpful to find out more. So thank you all for your input. I'm not seeing any more questions appear in the chat, so I'll just do a little bit of final housekeeping, and if any appear before I completely finish, then I can jump back to them. So thank you everyone for joining us today. We really, really appreciate the time that you've taken to watch our live stream or join our recording of the Recruitment Apprenticeship webinar. Today's webinar, as you know, was recorded and a copy will be sent out to everybody who attended. The email will come from the Employment and Recruitment Federation. So if you do want to take those next steps that Siobhan was talking about and you want to get involved, then look out for that email coming through and you can reply to that and you can begin that conversation. If you'd like to connect with Workplus, with myself or Richard to find out more, you can find us on LinkedIn, but our email and our contact details will also be shared from the Employment and Recruitment Federation email that's going out with a copy of this recording. And let me just double check before I close off that we don't have any more questions. No, well, I have to say that must mean our panel did an excellent job if we have no more questions. So thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you for sharing your insights, and it's been so valuable to hear from you all. So thank you all for joining us, and we hope the rest of your day goes well. Thanks, everyone.